Hi, I'm Tom. I'm one of the composers of Hunchback Music, and in today's video I'm going to break down an ostinato that I wrote for my track Through the Clouds, that's on our album Emotional Waters Volume 2, and see how I constructed it and how I develop it throughout the piece. And before we get started, an ostinato is kind of a rhythmic figure or a rhythmic melodic figure that is repeating throughout a track and often forms a rhythmic backbone of a piece. And with that out of the way, let's see how I started this. So this ostinato is built up of a lot of different layers that are both orchestral as well as synthesized. And together they form this hybrid structure that is pulsing in a way, but you can't really grasp it. It's kind of floating in the air and supporting all the melodies that are happening underneath it. And this actually starts off with a very simple figure that I have in the marimba here at first. Now this repeats throughout, and the development is more in how I orchestrate this, what kind of layers I add on top, and how I alternate those. So supporting this is, first off, we have the woodwinds. So this little figure is doubled by the bassoon at first. So together those would be... Now I chose, this is a layer that is kind of moving. We have, it's kind of moving, and to go with this, I decided to have one layer that is stationary and it's also rhythmically a little bit different. So on top of this, in very fast short strings, I added a layer that just goes with short repeated notes to add already a little bit of rhythmic variety, interest, and it's also quicker, so it adds a bit more drive to it as well. And here then you'll notice as well that this bassoon marimba figure is also doubled in the violas. So it already becomes a bit more interesting, it becomes a bit more harder to grasp, but we still have this very firm foundation of this rhythm that's going underneath. Now that's the orchestral parts. In the synthesized part, I have one arpeggiator that's just going down in very quick fingers, that is kind of going with the faster string figure, and also something more percussive that is very randomized in a way, but that just adds this shimmering layer on top that adds even more interest to the whole thing. So you really notice that there's this kind of these rigid layers that are going on continuously, and then there's this very high shimmering thing that's a bit more random and just adds a bit of variety and interest. One other thing that adds variety and interest is some of the sound design that's happening in between that I chose to put in more random parts. And one of those is actually a cello seagull effect. That's what it's called. It's an extended technique on the cello. I can explain now how you would create it, but you could also look up a YouTube video and that will be great. And let's see if I can add that as well, because it's right here. There it is. Coming back again. There it is. It's like these sliding high-pitched notes going up and going down repeatedly. And they just add this last bit of ear candy to tie this whole thing together. Now, and then when we put everything together, this first statement of this ostinato is as follows, with the melody and everything. So it's in a way, it's very rigid, it's very constant, it's not changing, but then those randomized layers, they add this, this lightness on top of it. And the first part where it starts developing is at the section where we are right now. Here I add another layer of synthesizers, which has a different rhythm. So the first rhythm was just da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da, and this one has in groups of 6. So they're kind of displaced over each other. So by having these accents, rather than having them stay exactly the same, they are now already starting to shift, creating this even more this feeling that you can't really grasp where this rhythm is going or where the strong beats are. And this is also supported by the flute that's coming in at this point as well. The flute or alto flute are very important in this track, and I wanted to bring them back here. And they kind of have a synthesized feeling because they're very fast, and a player would would maybe be able to play this because players are freaks of human nature, but still it would be very difficult to do it for this long, this tight on the rhythm. So it's a bit more in the back, and it's also in triplet, while the others were in 16s. So by having all these different accents and layers and different rhythms over each other, it really starts to become more and more loose and more free, which creates the perfect atmosphere that I wanted for this very soaring, floating melody that we have underneath. So this section with everything together, also with some added bass notes, sounds as follows. And now here we are kind of building up towards the first melodic climax, and here I wanted to be a bit more rigid, and that's why I chose to have bass note accents in the cellos and bass clarinets. You'll hear it the most precise in the cellos. We have this ta 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 ta, and I chose to have a bass note just accenting those first 2 notes every beat to give us a feeling that's a bit more rigid. So those low notes are just there to build up towards the climax. Now, after we've had the melody, which is very soaring, very melodic, in the final climax of this piece, I wanted to kind of get rid of this whole floating atmosphere and wanted to make it more staccato, more fixed on the beat. But we still have the same atmosphere that's going on. So the same layers that we had before to create this overall sound is still there. However, this time I also added a more driving string short rhythm that is supported by the brass. So here you can hear the very fast ticket is still going on, but we of course have a very percussive driving rhythm that builds us towards the ending. And all the while, the string arps are still going on, the random rhythmic layers are still going on. It's just that this driving rhythm is now added just to bring everything together, put it more on the beat. So this is still there, but now this is also there. And then this final section in the full mix sounds as follows. And that's it. That's how the ostinato is built up and develops throughout my track Through the Clouds. If you want to listen to the full track, you can check it in the end screen in a moment. This was it for me today. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in another Hunchback Composer Explains.
Hey there, I appreciate you watching the video. If you like this one, check out this video or that video. And if you want to support the channel, make sure to click on top of my head on the logo and subscribe to the channel.